Good afternoon to you. Mark Stott with HurricaneTrack.com here. It is Tuesday, the 25th day of January 2022, and I am here to talk to you about this big benchmark storm. What does that mean? What's a benchmark storm? We're going to talk about that. Bottom line is we have a powerful nor'easter in the works here, this Miller A type storm, whatever you want to call it. It's coming, and we need to talk about it, get you ready for it, make sure you are aware, and then I'm going to talk about my plans for our coverage of it, the wintertime version of a solid East Coast running hurricane. This is it, and it's time to get into it. So let's take a look at some of the headlines here. This is from the National Weather Service. Go back to their tweet here, the original tweet. On Twitter, the Weather Service Weather Prediction Center. Key messages for the winter storm coming up for this weekend. By the way, this is a good reason, I think, to name them instead of just calling it the January 28th through 30th winter storm. That doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. I think the Weather Channel is on the right track with naming most of the winter storms that they name. It wouldn't be a bad idea, in my opinion, if the Weather Service adopted that like they do over in parts of Europe. They say storm so-and-so. The UK Met Office does that. They coordinate it with parts of the European Center, the ECMWF folks. Anyway, not a bad idea, because January 28th through the 30th winter storm, and if you got a bunch of winter storms in a season, they start getting lost, and it just hurts the messaging. Just my opinion, just wanted to throw that in there. Anyway, the bottom line, though, the messages are coming out, and confidence increasing on a big-time storm, significant snow along the I-95 corridor, snow, sleet, freezing rain, you name it. Hazardous travel conditions, you bet, and then the possibility of coastal flooding because of the nature of this, the long fetch, the strong winds, the astronomical tides. It is all going to pile up literally and become quite an impressive event for our friends from North Carolina all the way up to New England and even into the Canadian Maritimes from there. Now, John Castle here, also on Twitter, a nice tweet from him that today's afternoon special, and there's a good name for it, the I-95 Hammer. Give it kind of a colloquial pop culture-ish name. The I-95 Hammer developing over the next few days. This is what it looks like several days out into time. We'll look at the modeling coming up in a moment. But yes, this is going to get the attention of a lot of East Coast winter lovers. And honestly, we got to be balanced here. Some of you detest this. You hate winter weather. And, for good reason. It does have a level of impact that can be problematic. We don't take these things lightly. There's this balance, this very delicate balance between getting excited about a big-time weather event such as this, just like we do with hurricanes. They are inherently an exciting weather event. That does not mean that they are necessarily positive or necessarily negative. It's all about the impacts. It's all about your perspective on it and how these are going to affect you. And that's what we talk about here, keeping you aware of what's going on. This interesting tweet, though, from John, highlighting that, yep, it's coming, and it's going to affect that I-95 corridor, and those impacts could be pretty substantial. So what's the setup? This is the GFS, this is the Euro, this is the Canadian model. We'll look at the three operational models and go out into time here. We're going to start out Friday morning. We're jumping out 72 hours here. This is valid this Friday morning. And you can see the dip in the jet stream starting here, the buckling of the jet. A lot of energy coming into play. There's the big ridge out west. And there's our low starting to form down here off the coast of Florida, somewhere in that vicinity, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, whatever the case may be. That's the surface low. Down here will form. And then this upper level energy is going to get involved and help to amplify this system as it moves up, eventually crossing this benchmark location. That's where that term comes from. 40 degrees north, 70 degrees west, the benchmark. Usually when we see storms cross that intersection, they are big time impactful, especially if they are wound up very deep, low pressure wise, a very strong system. They cross that benchmark, you get a big time I-95 hammer, as John called it there. And it looks like this one could come real close to, maybe even cross that benchmark. We don't know for sure. This is still several days out. Very similar here to tracking hurricanes. I think that's why a lot of people are sort of following this kind of weather. It's very interesting. Just like with hurricanes, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of waffling in the models. and a lot of opinions that are out there, and a lot of questions. What's going to happen? How will this affect me? Very similar to what we see with hurricanes, right? So this is Friday morning. Let's move this out. Friday afternoon, and then finally into the overnight hours, Friday into Saturday, the low pressure area forms off the coast of Cape Fear, moves up off of Hatteras there. You can clearly see it. There's the low right there in case you're not sure what you're looking at. This is the upper level energy coming down. All of this will kind of get tangled up together and create this very potent nor'easter heading up towards that benchmark location that I've talked about. So this is about 1 a.m. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Saturday morning, cranking up there, 983, the GFS depicting the air pressure down to 983. Look at all those isobars, lines of equal pressure. Very windy, strong northeast winds here along the coast of the mid-Atlantic up to New England, even down to the Delmarva region, Virginia Capes, the North Carolina Outer Banks, etc. I fully expect that we will see a huge swath of coastal flood warnings from North Carolina north, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. This kind of a setup with strong northeast winds over the distance of water that will travel, we call that the fetch. It's just going to shove that water right into the coast, kind of the extratropical cyclone version of a storm surge. It's the wind pushing the water onshore, and we're going to get some significant beach erosion, and at times of high tide, overwash, coastal flooding, pier damage, maybe even some structural damage. That is certainly possible. So coastal folks that are right on the immediate coastline in the usual areas that get hammered from these systems, you need to be paying attention to this very closely. So this is 4 days out. Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. It's not far at all from that benchmark, 39.96. That's pretty darn close to 40. 69.36 west, pretty close to 70. So the benchmark is just slightly west of there, right about like that. There we go. So you see, it's really, really close, just east of the so-called benchmark, this area. You follow Eric Fisher up there out of Boston and others up in the Northeast that are real sort of aficionados of these big-time coastal storms. They know the benchmark, this is darn close to it, and this is just one run. It's very possible this could go west of the benchmark, right over it, but that's an important geographic location, and this is going to be close to it. Wound up there, 976 or so, 978, whatever that is. Wow, very, very rough conditions for eastern New England. Long Island Sound could get some surge there from north winds. A major, major setup here. I would say probably going to see blizzard conditions, almost certainly a nasty weekend coming up. It then moves kind of slowly, 972 there. Look at that. In those time frames there, from early Saturday morning through Saturday during the day, it slows down a little bit, just enough blocking out over this area of high pressure to keep it from just racing through, that it slows down enough. Overnight, Saturday night, could be absolute insanity for eastern Massachusetts, and I'm going to be there for it. We're going to talk about that more in a minute. 972 on this particular model run. That is impressive, something to really take into account here as we watch this going forward. Now we get out to Sunday morning. It gets up into the Gulf of Maine towards Nova Scotia, still deepening, strengthening, that's what that means, and finally by early Sunday morning after sunrise, making landfall, if you will, up in Nova Scotia with bitter cold air draining down behind this system. We're going to talk about that as well in just a moment. So what does the Euro show? Pretty much the same thing. Friday morning, Saturday morning, this is in 24-hour increments off the Tropical Tidbit site, still just as strong, basically as the GFS is showing, and then by Sunday morning, almost the exact same spot as the GFS showing. So very remarkable, sorry, not need me full screen, very remarkable model agreement here between the GFS and the Euro in the operational sense. What does that mean real quick? The operational models are sort of the main deterministic models. They are kind of like the conductor of the symphony or the orchestra. And then the ensembles are the orchestra players, the wind section, the brass section, the percussion. Those are your various ensemble members, quite literally, because you have ensembles with instruments, a wind ensemble. It's perfect. And the conductor in this case would be the deterministic models, the GFS, the Euro, the Canadian. All of them have ensembles that give you those what-if scenarios. All right? So the operationals are in remarkable agreement. How about the Canadian? Same kind of thing, Friday morning through the afternoon hours there into early morning Saturday, also bombing out actually much stronger on the Canadian, and it too dadgum close to the benchmark. I mean, holy cow. The remarkable agreement here is something else. Overnight Saturday again. Wow. I just can't believe. I know what's coming. I've been up to New England for a few blizzards, these powerful nor'easters, and I've done a few. Not as many as I have hurricanes, obviously, but this gets me excited to put my technology to use. What are we going to be able to capture using our technology? The bottom line, it'll capture something interesting, because look at this. It goes in pretty much just like the other models. And if we zoom in here just on the GFS to the East Coast, a slightly different perspective. This is your 6-hour average precip rate and your mean sea level pressure and your thicknesses in the atmosphere. Just kind of showing you not far at all from the benchmark there. Saturday during the afternoon, very heavy snow in eastern, southeastern New England with screaming northeast winds there, blizzard conditions, and I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, let's flip it. I will be surprised if we don't see hurricane force wind warnings for portions of eastern Massachusetts, maybe even down East Maine, and what the Canadian Weather Service does for Nova Scotia is up to them. But this has the makings of being a hurricane force low pressure area out over the Atlantic there, and that could really send the waves, the wind, you name it, into areas like Scituate, Marshfield, Newburyport, you name it, the Cape itself, Cape Cod, Dennis, Sandwich, those areas off of Cape Cod Bay, that strong north wind eventually. Yes, this could be very problematic. So be ready, be on top of it. You guys are used to it. This is not like it's new, but it is still problematic, and you got to take it seriously. All right, after it is done, very interesting tweet here from our friend Andy Hazelton down in Miami. What is somebody in Miami doing tweeting about New England weather? Well, he's a meteorologist, and he knows what he's looking at, for one thing, and it's just non-hype. It's just, it is what it is. That's why I follow these people. You know, they just say what's going on, and we follow it, and we can depend on it, and this is important. That longitudinal look to the trough there, this is what I've been talking about. We have lacked this in the last few years. It's been a while since I've seen this, and this is going to drain some really cold air down into Florida. Those warm Gulf temperatures that I keep harping on, well, we're going to really chip away at those after this is all said and done, let me tell you. But for real, down into Florida, the citrus areas, the resort areas in Orlando, etc., you guys are going to see some very cold weather coming in, cold air. This big air mass is going to drain down with not much to impede it. Straight out of Canada there, this cross-polar type flow. I don't know if it's exactly what we call cross-polar, where it literally goes over the poles. Remember, the Earth is round, and so the air does slip over. Cold air is dense, and it moves and slides around like a thick liquid. It's just denser than warm air. So it's going to slide down into Florida, into the southeast, and we're going to have some bitter temperatures. So that's going to be the other story when this is done. Very cold temperatures moving into the southeast, including down into the peninsula of Florida. So be ready for that. Speaking of being ready, I'm going to do that. Already mobilizing ideas, people, assets, resources, you name it. We've already got some cameras that exist out here on the Outer Banks. My good friend, Dr. Ryan Meares from UNC Wilmington, might be going up there with a small team to set up LiDAR equipment to study this coastal storm. We have some friends of our project that live out there that have allowed us to put a camera on their houses right in Rodanthe. These mobile, yet stationary labs, if you will. It's funny because we get to know these people around the country, and they let us put instruments at their houses, and it's just really helpful for situations like this, as long as the power stays up, of course, which it should for the Outer Banks, hopefully. But anyway, we've got cameras out there already, a couple of permanent cams, possibly our friend Dr. Maris, the coastal engineer and hydrodynamics, that's a good term, specialist, is going to head up there. More on that later. He'll be sending video to me if he does, maybe deploying some equipment. I will be working with one of my colleagues from Denver, Colorado area, the Parker, Colorado area. Matt's going to fly out to Raleigh tomorrow, come down to Wilmington. We're going to load everything up, and then we're going to make our way up to Stamford, Connecticut up here and spend the night Thursday night. It's flying down tomorrow. We load up Thursday. Then, on the way up there, actually, we're going to stop in Belmar, New Jersey, just to give you an idea. Got a good friend up there and some old friends from Hurricane Sandy days, and we're going to put a couple of cameras in Belmar. Mainly because I know people there. It's fairly easy to get to, and I got some history there. And yes, they're going to see some impacts. Beyond that, our plan is to really saturate the coast of Massachusetts here with our equipment. The same equipment that we use in hurricanes. Scituate, Marshfield, down to the Cape, as I mentioned before, the Cape itself. And then we have the vehicle cam. We're going to also take a weather station with us, one of our weather stations that's mounted on this little orange clamp device that the DOT uses. It's very heavy, and we're going to put it in the back of our pickup truck that we're going to have. We're actually going to rent a vehicle. We want a bigger, taller, more sturdy vehicle for this. I've got the Tacoma that has been crowdfunded by good folks like you, but we're going to actually rent a vehicle to give us a larger vehicle for more stability and to get this weather station in there so we can get wind readings, live wind readings from the vehicle there along the Cape. So what's the plan? We're going to set up in Massachusetts probably 7 different cameras, these remote cameras, anywhere from Scituate right here, which is a very interesting area. If you've ever seen video that came out of there, it's remarkable, down to maybe Marshfield, like I mentioned, and then to the Cape. Sandwich Dennis down here right along the highway. Oh, there's Dennis over there. Sorry. It's been a while since I've been up there. And then Matt and I will probably hang out somewhere down here for the duration on Saturday, get a hotel somewhere in this area, and that's where I will sort of ride out the storm and have the live vehicle cam, shoot some B-roll, have the wind readings, all of that. I want to be as close to that low pressure area along the Cape, Cape Cod, as we can get. Working with a good friend of ours that I've known only on social media all these years. His name is Jeff, out of the Boston area. He has been trying to get in touch with people that he knows all along the coast up here. Salisbury, is that how you say it? Or surely it's Salisbury. That's what we call Salisbury, Maryland. With my luck, it's Salisbury. But I laugh because you just never know these local town names. I mean, if you looked at that, you would say it's Scituate, but it's Scituate. Anyway, Jeff is helping to get us some locations all along the Boston. Nothing in Boston. Boston's going to be covered by millions of people with their iPhones, so we got Boston covered. I want to cover the coast. You know, I want to show you the coastal impacts that are coming from this system like you've never seen them before. Lots of nor'easters up there. Eons of it, going all the way back to settlement times, no doubt. But nobody has ever set up live cameras right on these seawalls, right at the ocean. You get great storm chaser video from afar of these big waves coming in. Even the great Jim Cantori can't go down right next to the seawall because he'll get swept away. Nobody can. You just can't do it. It's not safe. Rocks get thrown up there. Some of them this big. I'm not kidding. I've seen it with my own eyes when I was up there in 2018 in early March, right in Scituate. Lots of rocks got thrown in there, and then the smaller pebbles, those polished, they're not pebbles, they're those really polished rocks, the beautiful rocks. Hey, those things come hurling at you, and those waves will break your windows of your car, knock you in the noggin, and then you're in big trouble. So we're going to let the cameras do the work, just like we do in hurricanes, and cover the region here as best we can all throughout this area, and then again down in Belmar, New Jersey, Rodanthe, North Carolina, and maybe even as far west as Asheville, North Carolina. One of the cameras that I had for the winter storm a couple of weeks ago is still here with our friend Evan Fisher, and I've asked him to maybe consider setting it up for that northwest flow that comes in or whatever. So we can cover this winter storm literally more than 1,000 miles from start to finish when all is said and done. Pretty good for a fairly small crowd-funded operation, all right? So that's the plan. That's what's happening. That's what we're looking at, a very intense storm coming up. I will talk more about it tomorrow as we get more details, and then Matt and I are out of here on Thursday, all right? So you guys be watching this up there from the Carolinas north. A lot of people are going to be impacted. Be ready for it. Take it seriously. Follow those that you trust, and we'll be ready, and we'll be on top of it as part of our off-season coverage that we're able to do thanks to our crowdfunding partners from all over the world through Patreon. Really appreciate you guys supporting this project and making it happen. All right, that's it from me for today. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. I'll be back with another update for you tomorrow.